Hi, beautiful humans. Welcome back to Menopausal Mel. This is our episode 2 on menopause and trying to make a difference. I guess I'd like to call this one Waking Up at 3 a.m. and We Don't Know Why, is basically what I've put this podcast around. For those that haven't listened to the first one, please go back and have a little listen. I try and be funny. I'm an emergency nurse practitioner and pretty much jack of all trades. I've got a bit of a shop here that I make a one-stop shop. So you need prescriptions or anything like that, you can always give me a call too. So those that don't know what an emergency nurse practitioner is, there's not very many of us in Victoria. We're trying to help the medical service and hopefully diminish the numbers that go to the emergency department by educating, and I guess that was the main reason why I wanted to start this. So sorry if I'm not funny, but I do try to be, and if you've got any questions or anything, please feel free to ask me however you do that. I'm not actually sure, Maxie. So I guess, have you ever woken up at 3 a.m. and you're completely awake and you don't know why, and there's no way of getting back to sleep? Well, that's the introduction of how menopause goes from peri into the next stage. So in the previous one, we spoke about perimenopause, which happens about 5 or 10 years before the actual menopause kicks in, and once that erratic period slows down and then we end up having 12 months of no period, that's when the menopause is what we like to say as the main word there. So sometimes if you wake up, you might think you've had a dream, or you've just actually burst into tears and you don't know why. You've got no rationale behind it. That's part of menopause, and we just are trying to alleviate that from happening. So by introducing the progesterone that we talked about earlier in the evening should allow that brain to be able to keep a balance throughout the night, so that you actually get that REM sleep where you continuously be able to, even if you do wake up, hopefully go back to sleep, which is super important. So here we're going to talk about hormones and mental health, relationships, body aging gracefully, hopefully, and everything else that's sort of untold. I like to have a bit of a science with laughter and occasionally a bit of a rant about stuff, because life isn't easy, and it's something that as humans we need to have a balance. And whether or not we're male or female or however we're born, it doesn't really matter. It's all about being kind and respectful to the other human. And that's probably one of the best things I can ever teach anyone, is just to be kind and don't lie, because it's not an easy, that was my one rule. My kids growing up, I'd say, you can do anything, I don't care what you tell me, but please don't lie to me. I'd prefer you came home pregnant. I prefer you told me that you had some terrible illness than lying. So they were my rules growing up, and I must say I've got 3 of the kindest, hardest kids there is on the planet, and I'm really, really fortunate. And I think in this Bayside area where we grew up, we're really lucky, because it's a village, and it doesn't matter where the children came from. Sometimes it's like a village raises a child. So I'm a big believer in that. And if you don't have a person that you can talk to about this sort of stuff, I'm here. I'm Menopausal Mel, and I'm going through it with you, so we can do it together, and hopefully we can have a lot of laughs along the way. So I guess I like to think this is a really powerful stage, where we're going from being a mum and a wife and a partner and a lover and a whatever for a really long period of time. And if you're lucky enough to keep working that whole time as well, which I have been, then you've still got that part of yourself. But this is where you are becoming that phoenix, and you are reinventing yourself a little bit, and you're feeling a little bit more in control of your life, when you come out the other side of menopause. You do get that menopausal belly, and you get that swelling and that bloating, and all that sort of exciting stuff. But that 3 a.m. wake up is really hard. And you know, the one where you're falling asleep and everything's peaceful, and then suddenly eyes open and you're wide awake. Your brain starts to do spreadsheets and remember all the things that you've been worried about that whole day. So I've got this little piece of paper that I sit beside my bed called the 2 a.m., 3 a.m. wake up, and I write my little things down. So that actually is something that helps me. I have got a diary, so I like to include stuff in there. And then, you know, just to not be able to reorganize my finances at 3 a.m. is really helpful, or remember who I had an altercation with in 1997. Things like that aren't going to help me at 3 a.m. to get back to sleep. So if I write down a little piece of paper, then I become a little bit more alert of taking that message out of my brain, allowing me to go back and not have that confusion. So hopefully this sounds a little bit familiar. Hopefully it doesn't, and you're not even going through any of this. But before menopause, when we were young, sleep is just so important, and getting that pillow and replacing the doona and doing all those fun things that people think, oh, I've had this pillow since I was 18, I can't not have it. Making sure you change your pillow and your bed hygiene is super important for bed. So, you know, you should probably change your pillow every couple of years. You should change your doona, actual doona inside the cover, every year. You know, there's lots of things, or alternate between going through and making sure that your doona inside is cleaned and fresh and makes sleep much more bearable. Cotton sheets, linen, all that sort of stuff rather than synthetic is really helpful for the sweatiness when you're going through menopause as well. So you still need to get that 8 hours is what we like to say. My mum used to always say to me, the hours before midnight are golden, you know, the ones that you have before then. Unfortunately, I've been really bad at the golden hours. I tend to not go to sleep until 1 a.m. I'm a bit of a night owl. But I am trying lately to get back into my bed and get back into a regime. So it isn't easy. I'm not telling you all the answers, and I definitely don't know all the answers. I just want you to know you're not alone, and we can work through all of this together. So your hormones in particular, your progesterone and your estrogen, were helping to regulate those sleep cycles. Progesterone in particular is the natural way of your hormone calming and feeling that sedative effect before you go to sleep. Basically, they're like body's natural Valium, I guess, to help you go to sleep. And then in that late 40s, when perimenopause sort of kicks in, we're like the, you know, irrational co-worker that's saying, hey, come on, you know, do all this stuff, but you've got a balanced life. And 1 month they're helpful, and then the next month they're, you know, they're sick on sick leave. Then they've got that entirely stage where the progesterone and the estrogen just diminish so far down that your sleep becomes that so irregular that you start to wobble and you'll start to fall asleep during the day, and you might get a bit of narcolepsy and all of that. But it's all related to your hormone levels, and if we can rationalize that and get that on track, we can help everyone. So why specifically 3 a.m.? 3 to 4 is where your cortisol levels usually drop in your body, and it's called the wake up and deal with lifetime. I guess that's why the baker's bread is always so fresh, and you know, they're always up earlier than everyone else and getting everything sorted, because it is designed for us to wake up a bit earlier than we do. And menopause without that buffer of that extra estrogen and progesterone will cause that early spike of the cortisol, and then we wake up even earlier. So once you can balance that progesterone and estrogen out, your cortisol level will normalize and you'll get more sleep. So if that makes sense. So good morning, less panic, even though it's 3:07, we can get that sorted. Menopause typically happens, we wake up, we roll over, then we decide, the perfect time. Every awkward thing you've ever said about your child's future might be planned. You might have those emails that you've sent earlier. All those things are going to go through your brain. But suddenly you're fully emotive and awake at that period of time. So sometimes I say, just get up and write stuff down, or maybe go do a podcast, maybe go watch a movie, do something that's going to recalibrate your brain back into sleep mode. Or better still, get one of those old-fashioned things called a book, which are amazing, and they have paper, and they actually are fantastic, and they help you read. And if it's a really boring book, it'll probably help you go back to sleep. But if it's not, it smells delicious, and it's a really good way to lower your anxiety levels before you go to sleep. Instead of the blue light on your phones and things like that, 2 hours they should be stopped before you go to bed. What tends to come first is just that falling asleep is initially great, and then all of a sudden we're doing that, kicking off the doona. Sleep matters so much because we need it to survive. It's like, water is the most important thing, and then food, and then sleep. So if we don't have it, we just can't function. We can't remember things. We're moody. We put on weight if we don't sleep enough. Our immune system's all over the shop, and we have that mental health issue, which we're trying to avoid. Menopausal women lose sleep, and it's not just about the exhaustion and the debilitating side of things. We're trying to address sleep as the most important part of the menopause cycle when it comes to the hormones. And what actually can help during this stage is replacing these hormones and stabilizing the brain so that we have less night sweats, less interruption. Magnesium is another element that we can use that helps keep the nervous system calm and increase the serotonin levels, so you start to sleep a little bit more calmly at night as well. The old banana, very handy to have it in the evening as well. So eating a banana before bed will actually reduce your serotonin levels and make you into that more calm, relaxed state. People used to think have it in the morning, but then you'd find when you got to work you're a bit fatigued. So the banana should be at night. Remember that, guys. So limiting your alcohol, your screen time, they say that alcohol should be in moderation, a few glasses a week, not every night. They do a lot of irregular stuff online sometimes. Yes, I know it's devastating news not to have that alcohol buffer, but if you can find something else that maybe contributes just as easily to that calm status, even going for a walk with your partner, taking your dogs for a walk, sitting on the beach and chewing the fat with your girlfriends, or doing something. Making sure that you're not cooking in that bedroom, you're not on fire all the time, so having a fan available or the air conditioning is really helpful, just to be able to click it on, and sometimes that flush won't last too long, so it'll help you go back to sleep. As we talked about, scrolling on the social media should stop about 2 hours before you go to bed, or your brain's going 100 miles an hour, as Maxie probably is all over that. He's always social mediaing because it's his job. And I always think nothing good really happens on the internet at 3 a.m. anyway, so no point looking and scrolling at that time. Final truth, I guess, if we're waking at 3 a.m., you're not broken, you're not weak, and you're not losing it. Your mind's just adjusting to this hormonal shift called menopause. And it's something that we can work on and something that we can do together. So thanks for listening. And I hope I've been a little bit helpful to those people that are going through similar stuff. And if you've got any questions or you want to forward this to some friends, that would be great. And any ideas for any names, I'll be open to. And please let me know if I can help in any way. Thank you, beautiful humans. Stay kind and look after each other. Bye.